Hi everyone, welcome to the Cali Culture Podcast, Episode 9, featuring guest Jason Espinosa, who's born and raised in New York. He has deep family ties in Colombia. Jason is a full-time accountant and he's an entrepreneur that owns and operates a hotel in Quinto, Colombia. Jason sits down with me today and we discuss his love for Colombia as well as his platform, Cash Flow Finca, showcases the beautiful culture in Colombia as well as it helps people understand how to own and operate businesses in Colombia. So without further ado, episode 9, listen and enjoy.
Welcome to the Cali Culture Podcast. This is the only podcast on air that discusses everything about Cali, Colombia. We have another great show for you today and another good guest as well. So, without further ado, sit back, relax, listen to the show. Let's welcome our guest right now, Jason Espinosa. Welcome, Jason.
Hey everyone, nice to see you. Jason Espinosa here. Really, thanks for having me, Jeremy. It's an honor to be here, and I'm really a big fan of the Cali Culture Podcast.
Absolutely, and we're so delighted for you to be here. We have a lot to discuss, obviously, so let's just get right into it. Let's start with yourself. Just give us a little background about yourself, where you're from, where you currently live, and what you do for work.
So I am 30 years old. I was born and raised in New York, born in Brooklyn, grew up in Queens, and now I'm located in Long Island, which is right outside the city borders. I'm a full-time accountant in New York City. I have been about 5-6 years working in the field, but now I'm looking to relocate in Colombia and live my life full-time here.
I heard that. That seems like the recurring goal that a lot of Americans have right now is to move somewhere. With gas prices, obviously inflation is still a problem. Unemployment is still upticking. Everyone wants to seem to have a goal of moving out, at least relocating and going to a country that is significantly cheaper. So to that end, let's discuss how and why did you end up in Colombia? But before that, tell us a little bit about your Colombian heritage, because I know you do have roots in Colombia.
Of course. So my dad was born in Palmira, Colombia, which is right outside of Cali. It's about a 20-minute drive. Over there, there's a lot of coffee farms and sugarcane fields. My dad grew up on one of those coffee farms. The area is rich in nutrients. But unfortunately, in those times around the 80s and the late 70s, you didn't want to be in Colombia, trust me. Medellin, Cali, Bogota was not the same place it is nowadays. Right. So unfortunately, his family had to sell the farm to pursue the American dream. Back then, the American dream was to buy the nice house, white picket fence, and to have a beautiful family. Let me tell you this, that American dream is no longer alive. I really wish it was, but for a young man like myself, good luck buying a house in New York. It's insane. It's insane.
No, you're exactly right, Jason. Not just buying a house. If you even just to be able to pay for your monthly expenses, like energy expenses are going up. The price of a car used to be on the average of $30,000 in the U.S. Now it's $50,000 for a basic car. We're talking about a Camry. So everything has gone up significantly, and I could definitely understand why anyone has a goal of, hey, I want to try something else out with just as good quality of living, but a lot cheaper. So with that being said, your dad obviously was from Colombia. Were you raised in a household that still had those traditional Colombian values of, family is important, the dance culture, always, having each other's back, always, cooking on a Sunday? Were those traditional customs, I would say, of Colombia a part of your childhood?
Yeah, my parents were very, very present in my life, and they made sure that the sacrifices they made were instilled into me.
Hmm.
My dad had my older sister when he was just 17 years old. So you can imagine being an immigrant, not having a dollar to your name, and now you have a newborn on the way. It it made life nearly impossible. But I say nearly because they made it work. And
Hmm.
with those immigrant mentality, I think is what really drove me to be such a strong-headed person. My brother and sister are the same thing. They're both dentists. So
Mm.
if anyone's
Wow.
lacking, I'm the one lacking in the financial sector. But I think my parents having that sort of traditional value and having that way of family ties and growing up in extreme poverty really
Hmm.
propelled me to become something more. I don't want to just be an average worker. I don't want to do the 9 to 5. I wanted more
Right.
from life to be expanding my thoughts, my entrepreneurship. Nowadays with AI, anything is possible.
Right. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And by the way, I wouldn't say you're lacking anything. We're going to talk more about the fact that you're an entrepreneur. We're going to talk about that more in the podcast. But I did want to touch on that a little bit more in regards to your childhood. Did you get a chance to go to Colombia a lot as a young boy or as a teenager?
So my grandfather actually was living in Colombia the whole time as I was growing up. Unfortunately, he passed away, but he did live on a farm, a pig farm, in fact. So I got to see what it was like to raise animals and enjoy that farm life. Nowadays for me, and I think most young adults don't know what it's like to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to the sound of a rooster crowing early in the morning, the sun
Right.
not even up, and you're down in the field getting things done. You start the day in Colombia, right? You start the day off 5, 6 in the morning, and you don't stop till lunch. And I think
Wow.
that's one of the things that I think most Americans really miss, and young adults can take something to learn from because there's so much daylight that's being lost of sleeping in till 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. The day's done for me by 10, 11. So who's winning there?
That is so true. I 100% agree with you. In the culture in America of today, I think the young people are on the phones way too much, on social media way too much. And obviously, it's causing obesity issues in the United States. I think young people need to get out more and experience being on the farm. And maybe it's not a big farm, maybe it's a small mini farm, but being out there in a farm, being outdoors, and understanding basic things, um, how to milk a cow, how to ride a horse. Those things are intangible that will help you build a work ethic for your life ahead. So I totally agree with that. I think we're missing that in America for sure. What are your fondest memories of going to Colombia as a boy or a teenager?
So I would say one of the deepest memories I have is understanding what it's like to have grit. My grandfather, he was a he was in the military in Colombia, and back in those days, it was very dangerous, very, very dangerous. I don't
Yeah.
think people understand what Colombia really the history was. Not to really say it, but the drug cartels and all that stuff, that was a big, big problem. And
Yeah.
yes, Colombia, you still have to have your wits about it, but it's not the same. Back then, my grandparents would tell me stories that you would be worried about a bomb going off anywhere, any in the
Mhm.
mall, at the schools, because there was so much drug trafficking, so much angles, so many problems going on that people didn't realize that. Hey, listen, this is something that's serious. And nowadays, people go to Medellin, they go to Cali, Bogota, and they're like,
Mhm.
oh, let me take pictures here, pictures here, pictures here, not knowing 30 years ago, Comuna 13, what Community 13,
Mhm.
that's for a reason. That used to
Yeah.
be a place you did not want to go. Now tourists come and taking pictures, boom, boom, boom. Oh, this is
Mhm.
so beautiful. Not knowing people were getting murdered left and right back there. So there's so
Yeah.
much history here in Colombia that I think people overlook,
Mhm.
and there's a lot to learn because there's a lot of history that we learn from our past. I think it's really important that most
Mhm.
Americans that want to go to Colombia, they understand that there's more to Colombia than most of my friends think. It's just a place for drugs. They think it's just a place for women and prostitutes. Yes,
Right.
you can find those things here,
Yeah.
but there's also so much beauty, and there's a reason that Colombians and Colombian heritage, like myself, come back because this is somewhere you want to be. This is somewhere that sense of community, sense of family, and neighbors, for example, in New York or in the United States, they don't talk to each other. Here,
Hmm.
your neighbor will lend you a cup of sugar, a cup of milk, or even
Right.
a hand on your farm.
Yeah. 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 And that's definitely, you're 100% right. Um, don't know if you spent too much time down south in the United States, like Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, but that's the way it used to be in communities in the southern region of the United States. It used to be people had each other's back. They looked out for each other. There was a such thing as community, a tight knit community, and people will work together. And that was even lost in the southern region, in the southern states of America. But that's something that attracts me to Colombia is I still see that um, that those family values, that sense of community, to me, which is amazing. Even me being an American, going to Cali for the first time, I think I've shared on my other podcast episodes. Uh, my first time in Cali, actually, I attracted COVID, and it
You know,
was a young lady that didn't even know who I was or anything. That was administering the test. She basically looked after me the whole time. It wasn't any like romance or anything like that. It was she was genuinely concerned. So Jason, you're exactly right. That is definitely something that is rich about the culture in Colombia that I think to me is priceless. That I wish still exists in the United States. Um, do you still have family in Colombia and Palmira and in that area?
so my family actually moved out of Palmira.
Hmm.
That's why the Quinto is such a heavy region for me because I was able to move most of my family out of Palmira and
Oh,
Cali,
nice.
get them out of there and put them into, either my house, my farm, or into, somewhere close by, like Armenia. I
Hmm.
think to me it was really important that my family be close together. I might have distant cousins here and there,
Hmm.
but I think Cali in general is so tight knit as opposed to the
Hmm.
United States that people know each other. Trust me, if you spend enough time in Colombia, they'll know you. You go to
Right.
the small towns, the small regions, you see the same people work at the grocery store or the
Hmm.
coffee shop, and you get to know them, and you really get to see, oh wow, these are hardworking people
Hmm.
that unfortunately might not be able to leave the country, but they have no reason to. Let me tell you, if I could stay here, I would stay in Colombia all day, all the rest of my life.
Me too. Me too, Jason. We definitely have that, share that in common. When I feel like when I'm in Colombia, and I shared this on another podcast, when I'm in Colombia, and it's really no matter where I am in Colombia, but specifically in Cali, I feel like I'm off the grid. I feel like I'm out of the matrix, so to speak. Um, and that's something that to me is priceless. Yeah, at some point I will be in Colombia, maybe not full time, but 80% of my time, and I believe that it's just gonna like the year is just gonna go by so quick because it's not gonna feel like I'm just working and grinding and
Getting
trying to
by.
accumulate more. Exactly. So that is definitely something that I cherish. 100%, I agree with you. Now, fast forwarding to you being a young adult and you went to school, became an accountant. Um, at any point in time, were you thinking, okay, I probably could live in Colombia? Like, did you take a trip like we were 17, 18, 19, 21? And were you like, I probably could live here at some point? Or was it a gradual thing um, of getting to the point where you are now, which we're going to talk about a little bit more? Was it a gradual thing? Or right off the bat, did you say, at some point, I want to live in Colombia?
So it's funny how my story started. I was, a normal American teenager, more normal American kid. And somewhere in my early 20s, I decided, let me take a trip to Colombia just to visit my family. And I just fell in love again with the tradition. I lost
Hmm.
that value, going to college, making friends, and none of them really understand what it's like to have such close knit ties. So
Right.
within those early years of my life, I actually went to the to get my passport, my Colombian passport and Colombian citizenship. In New York, I went to get the cedula of
Hmm.
citizenship, and I was able to get that my Colombian passport, and I can travel back and forth Colombia, America, instantaneously. It's
Hmm.
absolutely one of the best things, and I highly, highly recommend people look into that. That like yourself, because
Hmm.
it facilitates travel. It really makes it so much
Right.
easier. I have no
Hmm.
limits. I can stay in Colombia if I want. I can stay in New York if I want. It really, my life is split. Of course, I want to stay here and be in Colombia full time. But I think I'm gonna wait a little longer until I'm really really ready to take off the ground. But I would say mostly, I like you said earlier, I feel off the grid. I don't
Hmm.
have my phone in my hand all day long. I'm not looking at things that are just nonsense. Especially nowadays,
Hmm.
kids don't realize. You're spending hours and hours and hours on social media. It damages your mental health, damages
Yes.
your your sleep schedule, your rhythm. And I know you
Hmm.
like to work out, so you can't be staying up all night on your phone watching TikToks or Reels or whatever it is, because you
Right.
need those 6 to 8 hours of sleep. It's so important.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's exactly true. The other thing it ruins is too is it ruins your work ethic and your motivation because you're seeing somebody else doing something and you're not physically doing it, and so um, our bodies are all about burning endorphins, getting the blood flow, and if we're not doing that, we're sedentary. You're not being productive. So you're 100% right on that. Now, when did you start traveling to Candia? I think you said you call it Candio. Is that right?
Indio.
Candio.
Indio.
Yes, yes. Just want to make sure I'm pronouncing that right. So, and that is a department within a certain department within Colombia, right?
Indio is actually located just about 3 hours outside of Cali.
Mm-hmm.
There's one road you can take directly from Cali to Quinto. It's about a 2.5 hour, 3 hour drive, really close by.
Mm-hmm.
So the capital of Quinto is Armenia. My
Mm-hmm.
uncle moved there about 3 years ago. So that's when I first got experience with Quinto, Armenia, and just the coffee region in general.
Mm-hmm.
I've never really been there before, but when I had stayed with my uncle and my dad, I kind of got to see, wow, this is something really, really impressive. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
I've been all over Colombia. I'll tell you, I've been to the beaches all the way down to Popayan, which is south of Cali.
Right.
And I just fell in love with the nature, the coffee, the experiences, and just everything there is to get to know. It never feels like a dull day, especially being in this region. It's relatively central to everything. I can go fly to Medellin 45 minutes, Bogota 45
Mm-hmm.
minutes, Cali 45 minutes. So it's really best of both worlds. The climate is amazing. The
Mm-hmm.
people are just delightful. And there's never a bad day, never a dull moment. And like you said, with the cell phones nowadays, it's easy to kind of make a community or get to know people. There's plenty of places here that
Mm-hmm.
are expat friendly. There's
Mm-hmm.
places where you can go and meet groups of people. But I like the locals. I'm someone that likes to, get to know the real feel of the town.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, one of the things that I've sort of been not necessarily speaking out against, but I've been discouraging just a little bit, and that is the whole passport bro culture. And we're not talking about the passport bros or the travelers 10 years ago. We're talking about the last 5 years where these guys are going exploiting a lot of the women, getting drugged or going to a city like Medellin to get drugs and just putting a bad name on travelers. And I've been trying to get people to open their mind about traveling to Cali. So, I've even provided people with input that okay, if you're just thinking in terms of women and drugs, you're not gonna have a good time in Cali. Would you say the same thing about Candile?
I'll tell you this, that is so much different. The culture in Quindío does not accept that. You won't
Mm-hmm.
see the same thing. You won't see the same thing in Medellin that you'll see in Quindío because it's
Mm-hmm.
not known for this. It's known
Yeah.
for a coffee region. It's known for its beauty in nature, not just
Mhm.
girls, not just women. But don't get me wrong, there are beautiful, beautiful women in Quinto.
Yeah.
Armenia is known for having some of the most beautiful women in the country.
Hmm.
So, not neglecting the fact that, yes, there are people that are coming, like the passport bros.
Hmm.
And another topic of concern is gentrification. Listen,
Hmm.
I'm not someone to, I don't think someone like me is who people should be worried about. I don't have, the capacity to buy up 10 farms, I
Yeah.
would say most people that come to Quindio and looking to be humble have one, maybe two houses. It's
Hmm.
affordable. It's You're
Right.
able to live here separately from New York City, for example. I can't even afford a one bedroom.
Hmm.
I can afford, a nice life. So
Yeah.
in my terms, I think gentrification and the passport bros. Listen, there's two different things. You can come here looking for the wrong people, looking for the wrong things, or you can come here and experience the real culture, experience the
Right.
coffee farms, experience what it's like to actually have a purpose in life. Because here you see your results, you see the fruits of your labor. Just this morning, I chopped two plantain trees, and I had two big 50-pound plantains in my hands.
Wow.
And I planted those 9 months ago. So for me, it's something you really see the fruits of your labor. And I think a lot of people get misconcepted by, oh, Colombia with drugs and the women. Yes, the women are beautiful, and yes, there are certain things here that you should watch out for. But that's
Right.
kind of what I like to help people understand is, hey, listen, there's things that you should do and you should know, but
Hmm.
you'll have an amazing time.
Hmm.
Be smart about it. Like the topic of security. Of course, don't walk around with your phone in your hand. Don't be taking videos like this because someone's gonna come snatch it.
Right.
Motorcycles, motorcycles are gonna pass by, and I've seen it before. Motorcycles zoom right by you, and they'll
Hmm.
take your phone right out of your hand. They'll take your necklace. It's there's some things you gotta watch out for. Like me, for example, I don't walk around with jewelry. I don't walk around with anything. You know,
Hmm.
I think it's so
Absolutely.
important that people understand the culture and assimilate themselves. Don't speak English. Don't walk
Right.
around, wanting your money because it's not going to get you anywhere.
Yeah, and you're going to someone else's culture, a different culture, like you said. Key word is assimilate. You're not trying to bring, or you shouldn't bring American culture to another culture. You assimilate to their culture. You understand their customs. You understand their way of life. And if you do that and you respect, if you get what you give, right? If you do that and you respect the culture, then chances are you will be respected in return. Is what I've been trying to harp on the last several months. Doing this podcast, you're exactly right. That's why I like your content. You have great content telling real mature travelers, hey, this is what you do if you come to the coffee region. If you want to buy a house, you want to invest. Um, so I think that's great. Now, speaking of investing, you own and operate a hotel in Kendall. My first question in regards to that is, how did you make that decision? You can make this your response as long or as short as possible. But how did you make that decision that I am going to buy a hotel specifically in Kendall?
So it's funny how it started. I really am big on family. That's my number one thing. I wanted to have a place where I can have my uncle is my best friend. He has been on my side since day one. He's always supported me. Even when I had nothing, I would stay at his house. The little money he had, he would take me out. He would buy me whatever I wanted. And that really resonated with me. So I wanted to have a place where my parents can come, his family can come, and just have a sort of community within my own region. I bought this place. It's called Hotel Quinto in the coffee region, Montenegro, Quindio, so that I can provide for my family. But at the same time, it brings in revenue because it is an acting farm. I
Yeah.
have cows that produce dairy milk. I have chickens that produce eggs, and I have fields of plantains. I have different other cultural fruits like guanabana, maracuja, papaya. All these things are valuable, and not only does it provide a source of nutrition, but it also provides income. That's where the cash flow finca comes from.
Hmm.
Cash flow finca. Finca is farm, so I have a recurring theme here where most people don't see it. That cash flow finca means, owning a farm, providing for your family, living
Right.
off the land and being able to sustain tourism. Tourism is huge here in Quinto. And that's
Hmm.
part of the reason why I chose it because of the coffee region. The coffee here is immaculate. Immaculate. Jeremy, do you drink coffee?
I do, but guess what? I only drink Colombian coffee. When I'm in America, I have no, I just I don't have a reason to really drink coffee because I'm a naturally energetic person. But when I go to when I go to Colombia, it doesn't matter what city, I'm drinking a cup of coffee a morning for sure.
Yeah, like here, for example, you're not going to find a Starbucks. Don't even bring that over here. You're going to throw it out.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and you're right. Colombian coffee is like none other. I've been all over the world and I've experienced different type of coffees, but something about the blend in Colombia that's amazing. It really is.
Yeah, so I'm actually looking to grow my own coffee and build a coffee brand because I have so much land that I've been fertilizing and utilizing that it's becoming sort of a recurring theme. I've
Hmm.
tried the cows and I don't think it's for me. I've tried the chickens. It's all messy. I think
Yeah.
coffee specifically, it's easier to maintain.
Hmm.
I don't physically live in Colombia full time, so I
Hmm.
can't be so dependent. But that's where the
Right.
sense of having employees comes to play.
Hmm.
The topic of gentrification has been a recurring theme in my videos. People, they like to troll you sometimes. So you troll them back. Listen,
Yeah.
yes, gentrification is a thing. Yes, people coming to Colombia does kind of raise the, the market value on certain things, but it's going to happen either way. It's going to happen whether you like it or not. It
Yeah.
happened in New York. It
Hmm.
happened all over the country. So listen,
It
I,
happened in Medellin. Honestly, it's something that is one of the reasons why I have my podcast and my platform is yeah. Although I don't want it to happen in Cali, but let's just be honest here. Cali is the third largest city in Colombia. So when people get done, not necessarily done, but when they get tired of going to Cartagena and Medellin, naturally, Cali being the third city, they're going to probably more tourism is going to come there. I don't think you're going to change that. I don't think you're going to avoid that. I think what you can do is hopefully get positive, good tourism, and I think that's what you're trying to do. The more positive content you get out there, the more susceptible to get it to mature tourists listening to your content and saying, you know what, I want to go to Condil. So I think it's just if you continue to do your work and other positive content creators like yourself, I believe it will happen. You know.
let's put this
So
out there. We don't want the passport bros coming to Cali or Quindio. You guys can stay in Medellin, stay in Cartagena,
absolutely,
wherever it is.
absolutely,
Or don't come over here looking for that because this isn't the type of tourism that we want. Here we want
absolutely.
real travelers, people looking to actually take advantage of the nature and the beauty of Colombia.
Hmm.
Medellin has kind of been overran by guys coming looking for the wrong things, but there's certain parts of Colombia that are just untouched beauty, untouched realism that you won't get in any other part of the world.
Absolutely. You're exactly right. And I second that too. Passport Rose, don't come to Cali, don't come to Condil. Go anywhere else, go to Medellin, go to Cartagena. But let's keep the culture in those cities authentic and respectable. So I wanted to ask you, um, so it was family is the reason why you decided to invest specifically in Condil. It was family, is that correct?
Yeah, so I bought a 9 bedroom compound here in Colombia. It's about
Mm-hmm.
5 to 6 acres, and the whole idea was to keep my family together. To run a place like this, you need to have personnel,
Mm-hmm.
right? I also employ 2 other employees, which for me is so important because they need a place to live. They're making income. I'm
Right.
For me personally, I'm producing some you know, GDP, some economy growth,
Mm-hmm.
because this place was run down. When I first bought my hotel, Jeremy, it was completely run down. If you
Mm-hmm.
came here, you would never come back. There was bats in the ceilings, bees
Wow.
in the walls. and just deteriorating. So me coming here, it's an investment. Really, it's an investment. I'm building up a property. I'm building up these coffee fields just to
Right.
bring back the culture and allow traveling tourists to see. Hey, listen, this part of Quinto is so beautiful and amazing. You're gonna see what it's like to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning because you want to, not because you go to work. You're not getting
Yeah.
up to get sit in traffic. You're waking up to go milk a cow or feed the chickens, get some eggs. You're seeing the product and you're seeing the growth, which is so important to me and it's so important to my family to provide for them. And my employees. They have housing, they get a monthly salary, and just
Mhm.
it works out so well that I think it kind of becomes an ecosystem within itself.
Mhm. No, I think that's great, and you're a good example of an American going to Colombia and really being an asset versus a liability to a culture. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Again, right now, the passport bros are a liability to Colombia. Gentrification, getting in trouble. They're getting stopped at airports and searched. Uh, 7, 8 years ago, that wasn't happening. And so I say being an asset is, like you said, helping the GDP go up, employing people, because obviously Colombia has a high unemployment right now, and also providing a hotel and a structure for people from America, from Europe, wherever, to go and really experience the culture. So, yeah, continue to keep doing what you're doing. I think it's amazing. So what would you tell the mature traveler? We're not talking about the passport bros. We covered that one. But the mature traveler that has never been to Quindío, what would you say about the city that is so interesting and the reason why they should go and visit?
I think the sense of community and tranquility is one of the biggest things. I would recommend someone simply to go have a coffee in any of the small towns. Montenegro, Circasio, Salento, Finlandia. You can go have a cup of coffee, sit down, and just relax and see what it is to, time goes by so fast. You
Mhm.
really, you really never get a chance to sit down with your thoughts or with yourself and think, man, this life is amazing. This life I live is beautiful.
Mhm.
Nowadays, mental health is declining. The mental health is spiraling down with TikTok and Instagram. Attention spans are worse than a squirrel.
Yeah.
You know, so I think people coming to Quindio can get that sense of, okay, a breather. You take 2 seconds to realize, wow, this life is something else. And
Hmm.
the time that I've spent here and the time that I've been able to have with my family is priceless.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest things to me is having a place to just get away from it all, escaping the matrix, if you will.
Absolutely. Now, similarly, somebody that wants to go to the city, they want to make a reservation in advance. Why should they go to hotel? It's called your hotel is called Hotel Quinto, right?
Quinto, yes, it actually
Quinto.
means yes. It's five in Spanish, but Hotel Quinto is it's a compound located here in Montenegro, which is about 10 minutes from the biggest coffee park in all of Colombia, called Parque El Cafe. But besides that, there's also Valle de Cocora, which is the largest palm trees in the world. I'm about 35 minutes from there. Salento, Finlandia. If you ever watched the movie Encanto, which is a Disney movie that it was inspired by, it's a child's movie, but it was inspired by Colombian roots. And Finlandia, which is about 35, 40 minutes from me, it's based on that. After this podcast, go look up Finlandia, and you're gonna be like, man, these houses are painted so beautifully, and it shows a sense of what Colombia is really known for. It's
Hmm.
it's something that just brightens up your life, and you get to see such amazing views. But my hotel really is located in such a perfect area. I
Hmm.
think that for me, as the time goes on, as I'm learning how to manage personnel, how I'm
Hmm.
learning how to, adapt to the situations that arise, guest reservations, rooms, and all this stuff. I think it's a learning experience. And someone like me, not being able to afford a house in the United States, I can come here and run a whole operation based just off of what I've made in my 30 years of life. To buy a house in the United States, it would take me another 10, 15 years and I'll still have a mortgage. Here I was able to get it all clean. I can lift up today and say no more work for me.
That's amazing. You talk about that. So essentially, what you're saying now, perhaps there's not an American dream, but maybe there's a Colombian American dream that you can attain.
Colombian American dream that's about right. I would say most people that are looking into this sort of investment type, that investment style, it's not traditional and it does require a lot of hard work, but you will get to see the difference that the life and the dollars that you make can make a big difference in Colombian pesos. For example, me being able to buy this plot of land, these houses, and everything that I have here, I wouldn't have been able to buy a one bedroom in New York. So realistically, I don't want to. I don't want to work to live. I want to, live day by, live my days out the right way.
And that is such a good point. For the viewers that are listening right now, I've said it many times. I do financial literacy. That's not my main job. My main job, I'm an engineer, but I do financial literacy coaching. And one of the things I tell people is if you can retire early, do it. Because there's sort of a vicious cycle in corporate America that you work till you're 65 or you're 70. Now, probably now you're 70 because Social Security is so iffy right now. So you work till you're 65, you work till you're 70. Then, what's the average lifespan of an American? About 73 to 75? So you mean to tell me you work for 40 years and you only get to enjoy 3 years of that? So what you're saying, Jason, is 100% true. If you have an ability to be able to take advantage of a life situation, like being able to move to Colombia, or if it's not Colombia, Costa Rica or Dominican Republic. My question to the viewers will be like, why not? Why would you not want to do that? So I 100% agree with you. And me thinking out of the box like you did, Jason, is the reason why I ultimately, went to Cali one time, and a year later I bought an apartment, and then a year later I had my visa and cedula. So
yeah, to add on to what you're talking about, I think it's so important that people get to, live their life while they can.
Right.
I know you like to work out, and that keeps your body in shape. But some people, they work that 9 to 5. Oh, I'm too tired for the gym, or they'll get into smoking habits or drinking issues. Then that's not the life you want to live. Here you come to Colombia and you get to experience a sense of belonging. You get to see, how you can live a different lifestyle. People don't understand that it's not the end all be all in the United States. It's not the same that it used to be. That American dream, unfortunately, in my opinion, is gone. It's not worth it coming to New York. I wouldn't tell you go to New York because you're going to be struggling. Find a job that's going to pay you well. Then you're going to be struggling with bills. Yes, it's all over the place, but I'll tell you what, Colombians are much happier being poor than a New Yorker.
And that's amazing because I know that I can't remember what the average salary per month in Colombia is. I'm just going to say if it's $500 a month. $500 a month versus someone in New York that might be making $10,000 or $11,000 per month. And the amount of peace and tranquility that person in Colombia has making that $500 a month is amazing. Stress is the number one killer in America. And, if you're not taking care of yourself, then the stress will take you out. Taking care of yourself in regards to eating right and working out, then the stress might take you out. So I agree. Have that, to be able to have that quality of life is what we're talking about, which is to me priceless. You can't put a number on that. And it's the reason ultimately why I ultimately want to be in Colombia full time is I want that quality of life. I'm in my 40s now, Jason, and I want that quality of life where I wake up 6 o'clock in the morning, with zeal and enthusiasm, not because I'm going to a job where I'm going to be working 10 to 12 hours a day. It's because maybe I go milk a cow or something, or go take a nice long hike. That's the type of quality of life that is priceless. You can't put a dollar amount on that.
That's the reason.
Absolutely.
That's the reason I started Cashflow Finca, was to
Hmm.
showcase people that I'm the example. You know, I'm not ready to pick up just yet and move to
Hmm.
Colombia full time, but it's a possibility, and in the
Right.
future, definitely. But as in the time as it is, I like to showcase what I have, what I've been able to create, and just the beauty of it all, and how you can take your American dream, make it in Colombia. The American dream was to have a nice big old family with the house and the picket fence and everything. You could
Hmm.
take that and put it in Colombia in the right areas. You have to know
Hmm.
where it is that you're going to buy, where it is that you're going to stay, and ultimately live your life, because it's your life to live.
Absolutely. And the viewers, I do want to let you know, if you love the content, which I'm sure you do have the ability to donate. To obviously, it takes money, it takes time to keep the lights on, to keep the podcast going. So, if you want to donate, that's perfectly fine. As you can see on the screen, there's a Cash App, there's Venmo, there's ability. If you want to donate, then any amount obviously helps, and it helps keeps the lights on, and it helps to keep everything going. So any donation would be appreciated. Now, Jason, speaking of Cash Flow Finca, let's talk about your social media platform, which is where I discovered you and found you, and we started communicating. Could you just describe your play? I think you actually already touched on it a little bit, but could you go further in detail your social media platform and your goals for the platform moving forward?
Yeah, so I started the name Cashflow Finca as kind of a sort of a play on words, where cash flow is reoccurring cash and finca is a farm. So the whole point of it was to showcase, listen, this works. Tourism mixed with farm agriculture is a dream combination, right? So the way that it works is you can have people working on the farm by day, and at nighttime you can have tourists come and stay. So how I run my operation is two ways. I have day passes, which people come, they stay at the pool, they're free to walk down and hike through my property, look at the trees, take whatever fruits they want at the time. And even there's a river and a waterfall on my property that I allow guests to go and explore. Now, that's one option that I have. The other one is nightly stays. I have about 9 to 10 bedrooms, which allows up to 30 guests. So on special events, like one coming up next week is Semana Santa. This place is packed. I was here last year. I had to give up my own room. There was people walking up the street begging, begging me to let them sleep there. And I was like, I have no rooms, not a single one. So
Wow.
I think it's so important that people get to know and see, okay, if you're gonna live this life, you have to know where you're gonna stay.
Right.
Because if you think you can go to Colombia, meet up with someone, and they're gonna say, "Oh, this is a nice plot of land. Give me $100,000 and it's yours." Come to find out, it wasn't registered correctly. There's
Hmm.
not any concrete property lines. There might be some neighbor issues, or simply there might be someone that's staying there and you can't get rid of them.
Hmm.
Squatting, big problem here in Colombia as well. There's a lot of people that come and stay in places where they shouldn't be. So that's part of the reason why I started this cash flow finca, was to document my experience. I've had plenty of headaches with this. I've had plenty of failures and plenty of things that I'm like, oh, I did this wrong, or I shouldn't have bought this for this price. I'll tell you this, Colombians are very slick. They'll get one on in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Especially any sort of business movements you're looking to make in Colombia, I highly, highly recommend getting in touch with someone who knows what they're talking about. Me, for example, I've lived it, so I can tell you firsthand, listen, you're going to overpay on certain things, you're going to get beat over the head, but Colombians love to haggle. It's one of the biggest things that I tell people. Colombians are the biggest hagglers. They will tell you how it is. They have no shame. They'll tell you, you tell them a price $10, they'll say, "How about $9?" And you're like, "For $1, you're really gonna haggle with me?" But listen, they'll do it.
Right.
So I think it's so important that people who are interested in this lifestyle, they can reach out to me on my platforms like Cashflow Finca, so they can see, listen, this guy knows what he's talking about because I've lived it. I've experienced it. I've been overcharged. I've put business in the wrong places, and I've been, you know, beat over the head a couple of times. But they're growing pains. I'm still going through it. Some things are more profitable than others. For
Mhm.
example, having pigs isn't really as profitable if you only have 1 to 10. If you have 1,000, it's a different story. So
Mhm.
that's not going to work for me because my farm isn't big enough.
Right.
Cows, thing with cows, it's a hard business because you have to understand how cows work.
Mhm.
Livestock is really, really tricky. So I would, some people know that there's a lot of money to be made in livestock, but you really need to know what you're getting into. And I think most people like yourself, it's great to start with an apartment.
Right.
There's two options with an apartment. It can be pre-built or it can already be made.
Mhm.
It's kind of a gamble because in Colombia, sometimes pre-built doesn't get finished. So a lot of
Right.
people do lose money in that sense. And I've known people personally that have put 20, 30 grand on a down payment for an apartment that's pre-built and it doesn't
Mhm.
get finished. So they really, there's really certain things that for a small fee that I charge and I could help people, it's
Mhm.
important to look for that advice because that'll save you 20 to 30 grand in the long run.
Absolutely. Now, where can the viewers find you? I know you're on. Obviously, I know you're on TikTok because that's where we met and communicated. Besides, well, first of all, give them your TikTok moniker and address.
So it's Cashflow Finca on Instagram and TikTok. That's basically the name that I go by. And
Hmm.
for any viewers looking to get in contact with me, Instagram, TikTok, you can just message me really, and you can look at my link trees. I have certain links you can click on. I have a Colombian property guide that if you go into my Instagram, you can see my Colombia property buying guide. It's actually free. So you might want to go check it out and download it now so you can save it and get your hands on it before I do, you know, spruce it up because I think it's so important that people understand the the what they're getting into. Just buying an apartment, that's great. But if you're looking to
Hmm.
really increase value is there. There's money to be made in tourism. Let me tell you.
Absolutely. You know what was interesting, and by the way, we just put your Instagram on screen there, so everyone definitely go follow Jason. He has some really good input, and again, he's in the business now. He is an investor. He's an entrepreneur. He's an accountant, so he can give you a lot of good input in regards to whether it's a good investment or it might not be a good investment, or maybe years down the road it might be a good investment. He can give you that tribal knowledge that you need to be able to make a good, wise, intelligent decision. Now, you are exactly right from the standpoint. There are a lot of things, even with me buying an apartment in Cali, there's a lot of things that I learned. My first apartment purchase, you're exactly right. There is a haggling process. There's also a lot of things that are different than if you bought an apartment or condo or house in America. For example, there's no escrow. There's no escrow account. There's in Colombia. There's not really an inspection process. In other words, like in America, you want to buy a house. Well, one of the first things you're going to do before you go to closing is you're going to get the house inspected because you want to know if there's termites in the house. You want to know if the house has roof problems or foundation problems. Well, that's not widely done in Colombia. It's not to say that you can't, but that's not widely done. It's not a process of the apartment or finca or home purchase in Colombia. So that would be something especially you would have to request. So there's a lot of little nuances, ladies and gentlemen, that you have to know. And again, that's why it's good to talk to someone like Jason, or if you're buying an apartment like myself, because we've gone through the process. And why take the aches and pains if you don't have to? Why not have the best, smoothest process possible? Now, Jason, um, in regards to Cali versus Candia, and this is in regards to real estate, which one do you think has the lower cost of living?
I think Cali definitely has a lower cost of living,
Hmm.
and a lower barrier of entry. I say that because everything in this life is cyclical, and I would say Cali is on the bottom end of that cyclical spectrum at the moment.
Right.
So my knowledge of economics and just investing in general,
Hmm.
I would put money into Cali right now if I could, if I had any extra. But like you touched on earlier, 5 to 10 years, I can see the whoever it is in Medellin trickling down, coming into other departments of the country, and from my hopes and my dreams is for the Colombian culture to sort of get this re-innovation, sort of get this sort of
Right.
wholesome economic boost that I think it truly needs, and it's so
Hmm.
important that people, you know, that are looking to invest into this country understand,
Hmm.
like you said, there's so many nuances that I've had to go through that it just you get overwhelmed. For example, there's no loan process. It's
Hmm.
almost impossible to get a loan here in Colombia,
That's right.
especially
Yeah.
especially if you're buying land. Like if you're buying a farm like myself, you're
Hmm.
not going to get a loan in Colombia because they don't do loans like that. You might get a small loan. You might there's a program right now called Mi Casa Ya. Mi Casa Ya is a Colombian ran loan process, but there's a lot of nuances to it. They're not going to give a loan to a foreigner to come and buy. It's more so for certain age groups. For example, for me, being under the age of 35, I was given a significant tax reduction because of being a young entrepreneur. So I think there's a lot of things that people don't get to see, that mixing laws and mixing certain benefits can really make a huge advantage. Like you said, getting in contact with Jeremy or myself really makes a big difference in your bottom line. It can really make or break what you're looking at.
Absolutely. And that is definitely you're 100% right. Um, if you're an expat, if you're a tourist and you're thinking about investing or even getting something residential in whatever city in Colombia, first of all, even open up a bank account. In most cases, I'd say 90% of the times, they're not going to they're not going to allow you to open up a bank account without a cedula. In order to get a cedula, you're going to need a visa, some type of visa. So again, little nuances like that even to open up a bank account, you have to go through a couple of steps and processes to do that. And Jason, you're 100% right. That was one of the first questions that I sort of asked when I was thinking about buying an apartment is, well, do I even want to put out all my cash to buy the apartment, or do I want to get a loan? I found out real quick. Now I'm not getting a loan in Colombia. So cash rules the world over there if you're an expat. um, but yeah,
So
I definitely agree that I've never been to Armenia, but I just comparing Cali to Medellin, it is a significant cost uh, um, difference, significant. And I think that's really just it boils down to Cali is still not very the tourism isn't still really high in Cali, even though in the last 10 years, everything I've read is Cali has increased their tourism, but to see some of the numbers like Medellin or Cartagena or even maybe Quinto, I'm not sure if that will be in the next 10 years or so or not. Maybe it will, maybe it won't be. But definitely something interesting. Now, in regards to, um, let me ask this: if somebody right now, viewer right now, says, hey, I want to go and buy a house in Condillo, what would it be the first thing you tell them? Like right off the bat in a consultation, not to give them too much because I want them to go and get your consultation. But what would be the first nugget of wisdom that you would offer them?
I would look at their 5 to 10 years and see, is this something you're looking to live in or invest in? Because
Mhm.
for myself personally, this is something that I'm looking to live in long term. But if you're looking to buy an apartment, for example, and rent it out, you know, it might not be worth it because of the currency difference. Let's say you
Mhm.
buy an apartment for 80 to 100 grand. you're only gonna get maybe $300 to $500 a month, and after expenses, after all these costs, you're not gonna be profitable for like 25 years. So
Right.
you really have to understand what you're getting into, and I think that's
Right.
something that most viewers should take into account before they go and purchase that apartment. Because I have family members that have apartments in random cities in Colombia that rent for like $300 a month, and it's like that's the cost of the light bill plus the maintenance, and you're not really making a good investment at that point.
And the
I think it's
taxes too.
taxes, man. You really have to look at the whole picture and the risk you're taking. It's some things are worth putting the effort into. Some things are, more of a, a nuance or just a luxury.
Yeah. Now, I believe, and you can confirm this or not, I believe in regards to safety, I believe Condeo is like probably on the order of 2 or 3 times safer probably than Cali. Would you agree with that, or is that a misstatement?
We didn't even get into the topic of safety. But here we are. Yeah, realistically, there's a lot to be careful with in Colombia, and honestly, Cali right now it's pretty dangerous, pretty hot. So I would recommend people really really be careful. Don't get me wrong; it's a beautiful city. The food, the salsa culture. We didn't even get in touch with salsa. Man, I love salsa. I've
Yeah.
been dancing salsa for years and years, and I have a couple of videos on my page. If people go to check it out, you'll see I actually dance salsa. It's a big thing in my family and a big thing for me. Especially with the ladies. You get to mingle, you get to kind of let loose for a little while. So no,
Right.
the salsa culture is amazing.
Yeah.
To get back to the safety issue, yes, I really think people should keep their wits about themselves when
Mhm.
you're walking through the streets. It's important to not be flaunting anything and to just embrace what it is around you. You have to keep an eye open. I have a friend who got his phone stolen in Cartagena not too long ago, just
Mhm.
because they know when you're not from there. They know immediately.
Yeah.
People in Colombia are very very smart, and they're very very, they'll take advantage of you if you let them. So I
Yeah.
think it's so important that when people are looking to either even just to travel, get in touch with someone. Hey, listen, is this a good place to go? Because you go 2 blocks the wrong way, you're gonna be in a world of trouble. It's really, really, really important.
Yeah, that's so true. And I always say in regards to Cali, I'd say Cali to me reminds me of a New York or a Philadelphia or DC. That it just depends on where you are in Cali. Where the barrios that I typically are in or live. Obviously, I live in El Peñon, but San Antonio, Granada, other barrios are relatively very safe. But then you go in some of the other barrios, then you definitely as an expat or tourist, it could not go very well for you. So it just depends. But I would say from everything the research that I've done on Armenia, Condil, some of the random I would say criminal activity are it seems like they're slightly less in that area from what I've read than in Cali. And again, that's it's just indicative of some cities. Again, Philadelphia versus Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio. Differences in criminal activity, and that's just the way it is. Not to say the city isn't safe. It's just in some areas of that city is more prone for violence or criminal activity than others. So, but would you say that's a selling point in regards to Condil that there is probably less crime in that city and department?
So I think one of the things that when people contact me and would be willing to look at is what are you trying to get out of this? If you're trying to just get to know the areas, I know just the spot. But
Hmm.
if you're looking to just rent or just have a small investment, you need to go
Hmm.
outside of the city a little bit. Like my farm, for example, is not in the city itself, but within the region, it's very close by. So I think if someone's looking to buy an apartment, you know, Armenia, especially the north of Armenia, beautiful, absolutely a city zone, perfectly safe. I go out there all the time. I have plenty of friends in the area. But if you're looking for the farm life, you need to go a little bit outside of the small town. But that's where the value is. You can drive my house to north of Armenia 20 minutes, and
Wow.
I don't have to worry about the city life. I can go out, have drinks with my friends, come right back home, no problem. Might have a
Wow.
girl or two with me, but but I think
That
for the
sounds
most,
amazing.
yeah,
That
I think for
sounds
the
absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I think for the most part, people, it's like anywhere else in the world. There's some good people, some bad people. I
Yeah.
think it really just depends the kind of person you are, what you're looking for, and just the wits you have about you. You need to have a good sense of um, reading people.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Well, we reached our time. It's almost an hour. Well, it is an hour, and I could keep talking for another hour. Jason, we'll definitely have to have you back on the show again for sure in the near future. But I always like to give my guests the opportunity to give the closing words for the episode before I do my monologue. And so I give the floor to you, my friend. You can talk about whatever you want to talk about.
So, Jeremy, I just want to thank you, first of all, for having me on the show. I really, really am a big fan of your Cali Culture podcast. It's been
Thank you.
such a delight. It's been such a delight talking with you. I know we have so much in common. We have so much more to discuss in the future. I know there's plenty of topics we didn't even get to touch on, but I just know that this is such a good thing that we have going here, and I'm really glad that we can showcase this on a platform where people can understand and see, hey, listen, Colombia isn't all drugs and girls. There's plenty of things to see: salsa, nature, the food. Just the nightlife. Everything here is just wonderful. It's not just all Medellin, Cartagena. There's other parts that people should visit and get to know.
Absolutely, you're 100% right, and I'm gonna catch up with you in Condillo real soon. Real soon, I'm gonna get over there and experience that city. But until then, thank you very much again. We'll stay in touch, and everyone, the viewers, please follow Jason on his Instagram and social media. TikTok. Definitely follow him. Can keep track of what he's doing because he's put out some really positive content for Colombia. Well, that's it. That's a show. A great show, good people. Again, if you want to donate to the show, you're more than welcome. Any small donation helps, keeps everything going, keeps the lights on, and we appreciate it. I appreciate it very much. Now, with that being said, another great show in the books. We have a good show for you next week. I'll be providing some more information. Until then, always remember, respect the culture, embrace the culture, love the culture. Let's continue to keep building a community of expats and tourists that respect the culture and love the culture. So with that being said, have a great time. Have a great weekend. Hasta luego. Cali is Cali. See you next time.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you for watching the Cali Culture Podcast with Jeremy Preston. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you next week for our next episode.